Well, welcome everybody. My name is Dr. Jaraka. I serve as the Associate Superintendent of Instruction and Personnel here in Diamond Lake School District 76. This evening, I'm going to take just a few minutes to talk with you about our initiative to move both English language arts and mathematics to a standards-based reporting system next school year in grades K through 5. Daisy, do you want to translate that?
Muy buenas noches. Esta presentación de Universidad de Padres el tema de hoy vamos a hablar sobre calificaciones basadas en estándares para el contenido de artes lingüísticas en inglés y matemáticas para el año escolar que viene para grados de kindergarten hasta el quinto.
All right, so I'll start by just sharing and staying close to the slides so that we can have an appropriate translation. But let's start by talking about what are standards-based report cards. And so the purpose of a standards-based report card is to clearly communicate student progress towards achieving established state district standards and learning behavior. Our report card will support parents and guardians and the students in understanding strengths and areas of needed improvement.
¿Qué son las calificaciones basadas en estándares? Aquí pueden ver el propósito de estas calificaciones basadas en estándares es comunicar claramente el progreso del estudiante hacia el logro de los estándares establecidos por el Estado y el distrito y el comportamiento de aprendizaje. Nuestras calificaciones ayudarán a los padres y tutores y al estudiante a comprender las áreas fuertes y las áreas que necesitan que mejorar.
So simply put, and this is not in the slide there, Daisy, but simply put, a standards-based report card allows teachers to share with students and parents their progress in relation to the specific standards that fall under English language arts and math. And I'll explain that a little bit more in detail as we continue through the slides.
So, en resumen, esto va a dar la oportunidad que las maestras comuniquen el progreso que cae debajo de artes lingüísticas en inglés y matemáticas, pero vamos a hablar de eso en los próximos pasos de esta presentación.
So why a standards-based report card? Well, standards-based report cards give meaning to grades. In a standards-based report card, grades will reflect the student's mastery of the content or skill. In a standards-based report card, it will define what learning and mastery for students should look like.
Las calificaciones basadas en estándares dan significado a las calificaciones o los grados. Las calificaciones o grados reflejan el dominio del estudiante, del contenido o su habilidad. Define cómo debe ser el aprendizaje y el dominio de los estudiantes.
Continuing on then, again, why a standards-based report card? Well, standards-based report card or standards-based reporting changes the way we look at schooling. So we will now look at learning based on a mastery of specific skills, not just in an overarching grade in a subject area. So typically, what you see is an English language arts grade or a math grade. But what you'll see in the samples that I'll show you in the next slides is that in a standards-based report card, we pick apart what math looks like. We pick apart what English language arts looks like, and we give specificity to what it is we expect children to learn. So in the future, you'll know more specifically about what strengths your child or what deficits or challenges your child may experience more specifically in English language arts and more specifically in math.
Y aquí puede ver también por qué calificaciones basadas en estándares, las calificaciones basadas en estándares cambian la forma en que vemos la educación. Ahora miramos el aprendizaje basado en el dominio de habilidades específicas, no solo una calificación general en el área contenido, y las tareas educativas se alinean con los estándares. En resumen de lo que acaba también de hablar el doctor Jaraka es que los grados, y ahorita vamos a ver ejemplos de cómo se van a ver los los grados o las calificaciones, pero nos ayuda, nos permite la habilidad de especificar um, el, el dominio de los estudiantes en el tema de artes lingüísticas en inglés y en matemáticas, pero de nuevo vamos a ver ejemplos ahorita.
Thank you, Daisy. So the next slide shows an example of a fourth grade math standards-based report card, or at least a component of a math standards-based report card. So in the past, you may have seen just one simple math grade, but in the future, you'll actually see the components that we're focusing on, or what we would consider, or what are called priority standards in math. This example is just a portion of the fourth grade math report card. And I'll show you a complete fifth grade report card at the end of the presentation, so you get an idea of what it looks like holistically. But as you can see here, under numbers and operations related to fractions, a fourth grade student will be expected next year to recognize and generate equivalent fractions, compare two fractions with different denominators and different numerators, add and subtract mixed numbers with like denominators, and use decimal notation for fractions with denominations 10 or 100. So it adds, like I said before, it adds more specificity to what it is we expect a fourth grade child to be able to accomplish at the end of fourth grade. Daisy, I apologize for some of that technical language there in terms of, translating.
You're good. I will give a summary, but I pretty much got it. Aquí puede ver el ejemplo de matemáticas, bueno, una parte de cómo se van a ver las calificaciones basadas en estándares. En el pasado hemos visto los grados como un simple grado en matemáticas, basado en estas partes que ve aquí de las calificaciones, donde los estudiantes tienen que reconocer y generar fracciones, bueno, diferentes partes de matemáticas. Y ahora las calificaciones basadas en estándares nos ayuda a reconocer en dónde está el estudiante y dónde debe de estar en su propia meta. Y ahorita vamos a ver un ejemplo de otro nivel de grado.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
So in the past, you may have seen a grade like A, B, C, or you may, in grades K through 2, you may see something similar to this. So there aren't too many changes for our primary grades. But based on the standards that you just saw in mathematics, teachers will report out whether or not a child was able to receive a 4, which means to exceed the standards that we're seeking a child to master, or will receive a 3, which means a student will meet or demonstrate the understanding of the concepts or skills. Or if a child receives a 2, it means they're approaching or they're beginning to demonstrate an understanding of the skills and concepts taught in that reporting period. And if they receive a 1, that simply means not yet. And, we like to maintain a growth mindset in Diamond Lake School District 76, and we remind all of the teachers and parents are reminded that children come in with different skill sets and strengths. And so some children may not yet be able to demonstrate grade level skills. However, as they progress throughout the school year, we will see that, they're growing and acquiring the skills and concepts as they progress.
Aquí puede ver un ejemplo, ya no va a ver los grados como A, B o C. En vez de hacer eso, vamos a ver el cambio de 4 a 1. Puede ver 4, 3, 2, 1. Excede, satisface, se está invocando, está llegando a donde debe de estar en su aprendizaje, o no todavía va a llegar, que es el número 1. Pero lo que aquí van a ver del cambio de A4 a 1 y qué significan, si el estudiante está desarrollando apropiadamente en el contenido de artes lingüísticas en inglés o de matemáticas, pero vamos a ver el progreso de los estudiantes durante el año escolar.
All right, and just one last thing I want to mention there, Daisy, is the last category is not evaluated. And so there are times or certain times where a child will not be evaluated in relation to a specific standard or priority standard. And so in those instances, if in one trimester a child is not evaluated based on one of those standards, the teacher will just simply report not evaluated.
Van a haber unas instancias donde los estudiantes no van a estar evaluados, pero como siempre los vamos a comunicar con ustedes, pero también ese es uno, además de 4-1, también van a ver NE, que significa que no están evaluados.
Thank you. Moving on then, what are the benefits of standards-based report cards? Well, standards-based report cards creates greater consistency in grading. All student grades reflect progress towards mastery of standards rather than individual grading practices.
Aquí pueden ver los beneficios de las calificaciones basadas en estándares. Crean una mayor consistencia en las calificaciones o los grados. Todas las calificaciones de los estudiantes reflejan la progresión hacia el dominio de los estudiantes en lugar de prácticas de calificación individuales.
Yeah, so let me add some detail to this slide. As it currently stands, teachers have individual grading practices, and those individual grading practices may lead to inconsistency between grade level teachers. And so some examples I've seen in the past is, let's say some teachers give extra credit, or some teachers allow students to bring in, let's say, cans for the canned food drive, and those bringing in canned foods allows them to get extra points. And so doing some of those things that are not related to the standards allows a child to get a specific grade. And that may vary from teacher to teacher. But with a standards-based report card, again, going back to the specificity issue, we're really just focused on the specific standards in English language arts and math that a child is expected to acquire by the end of that grade level.
Thank you. Para dar un ejemplo, ahorita las maestras tienen sus prácticas de dar calificaciones o los grados. A veces esas bases de calificaciones pueden ser inconsistentes. Por ejemplo, unas maestras pueden dar crédito extra a sus estudiantes para que puedan llegar a ese nivel, a esa calificación o ese grado, o a veces les dan puntos extras que no están relacionados a los estándares, cuando los estudiantes pueden traer comida para ayudar a otros y luego les dan unos puntos extras, pero eso depende de las maestras, pero es para que los estudiantes lleguen al grado donde deben de estar, y no básicamente les está impactando el grado, el estándar donde debe de estar. Esto ayuda que todas las maestras vayan mirando y desarrollando dónde debe de estar el estudiante al último de ese año escolar para que llegue a su meta.
And additionally, teachers may bake into their grades things such as effort and participation. And while those dispositions are extraordinarily important and are of great value, they don't necessarily relate to the standards or the mastery of those standards. So moving to a standards-based report card really allows us to focus on what it is we expect the child to learn by the end of that grade level.
De nuevo, y esos esfuerzos y participación sí son partes importantes en el crecimiento de los estudiantes, pero no básicamente les ayuda para que ellos vayan entendiendo las materias que están aprendiendo. Las calificaciones basadas en estándares, de nuevo, nos ayuda a enfocarnos en las expectativas que tenemos en los estudiantes de dónde deben de estar al último del año escolar.
All right, then continuing on, what are some additional benefits of a standard-based report card? It allows teachers to focus learning tasks more specifically on skills and content, and gives teachers feedback as to how they need to reteach or focus instruction.
Calificaciones basadas en estándares impactan las instrucciones, permite a los maestros enfocarse en las tareas de aprendizaje más específicamente en las habilidades y el contenido, brinda el retroalimentación a los maestros, sobre cómo volver a enseñar o enfocar la instrucción.
Yeah, again, what a standards-based report card does is allow teachers to have a very specific focus on what it is they expect a child to master. And in doing so, because they have a specific focus, it allows them to direct their instruction more succinctly to those standards. And that allows, as I've mentioned earlier, that just allows for a more consistent and content-focused set of grading practices.
De nuevo, esto nos da la oportunidad para que las maestras y maestros se enfoquen específicamente en el éxito o en el logro de donde debe de estar el estudiante al último del año, o las cosas que debe de estar aprendiendo, y de nuevo ayuda a las maestras a enfocarse en cómo dan su instrucción también, y es algo más consistente para ellas es cuando están desarrollando su instrucción y aprendizaje para los estudiantes.
Okay, and then the final slide that I have is just a quick example of a standards-based report card. So let's see if I can bring this up. And Daisy, you can see this, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so next year, your standards-based report card may look something similar to this, depending on how PowerSchool prints it out. But essentially, this would be a fifth grade report card, and these would be the standards that would be covered in fifth grade math. They would be related to operations and algebraic thinking, numbers and operations in base 10, and you can see the specificity there that is related to each of those content areas. Numbers and operations and fractions, measurement and data, and geometry. So rather than just giving a simple grade in math, we're going to be covering specific dynamics or content areas within math, and teachers, students, and parents will have a greater understanding as to where kids are at in terms of meeting those standards, and how they can improve. And then also another thing that you can see is that we should expect to see growth over time. And if we have a child who's coming in trimester 1 and not yet, well, then hopefully we can see those grades improve. And that in trimester 2 begin to improve to maybe approaches. And then by the end of the year, the child is meeting the state standards.
Aquí puede ver un ejemplo de la calificación para matemáticas. Ese es un ejemplo de matemáticas para el grado quinto. Nuevamente, aquí puede ver diferentes áreas o materias que están aprendiendo en el área de contenido de matemáticas, sus operaciones, sus números, el álgebra, medición. Puede ver individualmente cada componente que están aprendiendo los estudiantes, y luego las calificaciones de nuevo va a ser 4, 3, 2, 1 o no evaluado. Pero nos da la oportunidad para ver si los estudiantes están creciendo sobre el éxito donde deben de estar. Nos ayuda a ver cómo podemos apoyarlos para que sigan desarrollando y mejorando, porque lo que queremos es que crezcan durante el tiempo escolar que están. Pero aquí puede ver este trimestre también 1, 2 y 3, en el nivel en donde está su estudiante individualizado, basado en la calificación de 4, 3, 2 o 1.
Yeah, and then just to share a little bit further, not that I'll go into all of the details here, but then further down the report card, there is English language arts standards related to reading informational text and literature. And as you can see, there's greater detail in terms of what it is we would expect children to be able to know, understand, and do. That extends also into language and writing and things of that nature. So that gives you a basic summary as to what a standards-based report card would look like. And I would also say that each grade level K through 5 will have an individual standards-based report cards, and the standards will change or graduate as the years progress.
Y de nuevo, vamos a seguir mirando los ejemplos. Aquí es un ejemplo de artes lingüísticas en inglés. Y igual como en matemáticas, los estudiantes están aprendiendo diferentes materias como lectura, literatura, y pueden ver las expectativas que tenemos, pero nos ayuda a ver específicamente cómo van creciendo, cómo poder ayudarlos para que lleguen al éxito y al logro donde queremos que estén en los estándares, y cómo siguen creciendo, si están llegando a su meta de donde deben de estar.
All right. Daisy, that concludes my portion of this evening's information related to standards-based reporting and report cards. What might be next steps, Kelly? Is this a point at which we would ask if there are any questions? Can people type into the chat?
That is exactly it. We would go ahead and ask that if there's any questions that people can type in their questions, and then as well as the survey. Daisy, did that get input into the slideshow?
It did. Would you like me to share my screen again?
Love that. And then if everybody that is attending, if they don't mind going ahead and filling out this quick survey while you're typing in your questions, that would be great, just so we can continue to have some awesome feedback from everyone. And you can use the.
It will also be, it'll pop up on everybody's screen when we log off, I believe for like 5-10 minutes, it's on there. Si tienen unas preguntas, comentarios, los puede poner en el chat. Y tenemos una encuesta corta también. Cuando nos vayamos de esta reunión, también el enlace va a seguir ahí para que lo puedan tomar. Solo es como 3 preguntas, creo.
And Daisy, I'm unable to see any sort of questions or anything of that nature with the survey being up there.
I'll let you
As
know.
of right now, we do not have any.
Okay.
Usually we'll hang around for a few minutes to see, because I know it does take time to enter in those questions. Okay, yeah, we just got one. It says, this looks very similar to what we have already seen in K through 2nd grade.
Yes, it is. It is similar to what you see in K through 2nd grade. And that is very typical of a primary building, because the standards are relatively basic in a K through 2 environment. Standards-based reporting is very typical. The challenge often comes as you graduate through the grade levels. Standards become increasingly more complex, which requires a bit more work in terms of designing and implementing a standards-based report card. So yeah, if you're used to the primary report card, you're going to see, minute changes. For those of you who are in, grades 3 through 5, you'll see changes as I've described here earlier. So, any other questions?
I'm not seeing any other at this time.
All right. Well, and you said, Kelly, we'll be recording this, so people have an opportunity to watch it. I would just like to say, one, thank you, Kelly and Brandon, for your continued support in driving these parent universities. Daisy, thank you so much for your translation. Your ability to just move on the fly is awesome and very much appreciated. So with that, again, thank you everybody who tuned in for tonight's presentation related to standards-based report cards. Again, my name is Steve Jaraka. I serve as the Associate Superintendent here in Diamond Lake School District 76. My contact information is available on the website, and you are always more than welcome to email me or reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right.
guess
Bye,
I'm-
everybody.
Bye, guys.